Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Relationship. And today, I'm your host. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Stefania Puglia from the Gentleman's Square. And today, you have me all to yourself. That's right. I am going to be talking about a really great topic here today. And of course, if you are out there listening and you want to chime in, let us know because all comments are welcome. But what are we talking about today? Well, first of all, we're talking about friendship to relationship. That's right. From a friendship to a relationship. Is it possible to actually take it from a friendship to a relationship? Now, I know a lot of you, particularly gentlemen, can find yourself getting stuck in the friend zone. Okay. Now, that's a whole nother topic, but we're talking about how you can possibly move from that friend zone or friendship. Let's not talk it as zone because I think when we articulate it and put it into that category of a zone, it can be somewhat limiting on our thought patterns, the way we think of it. We think of a zone, we think of we're kind of like in that in that area and we can't get out. So a lot of us, of course, we search high, we search low, we search for the one. We search for, the one that we feel that we're going to be destined with for the rest of our lives. If that's the kind of thing that you want. Of course, not everybody out there has this goal. But for those of you that obviously want to find the one, and we do go on a search. Let's face it, we meet someone, we speculate, we think, could could we date, at least, and then possibly something evolve. So we're constantly on the search. But for some people, all these years of searching, I've known of stories where people have actually, known a friend way back, okay, way back, and then they move on, they, marry, have children possibly, or have children, or move overseas, come back, and then later in their years reunite and, you know, have a relationship happening. Or for some people, they have been friends for a long time and then bam, something happens. Now, a lot of the times, we think this only happens in Hollywood, okay? It only happens in the movies. Let me see. Yes, I am live, Zanetta. I am. You may want to chime in. She's just messaged me to see if I'm on live. But a lot of us, can be with a friend and we see that person as a friend and that's it. And then something kind of happens and we want to take it to the next level. Okay. And we find, you know, we have that realization that the one that we're really, you know, is for us or the right one, supposedly, could be potentially that that friend that is right next to us. Because really, your friend, you share pretty much everything together, right? And the reason I actually thought about talking about this today also, A, because I've known of a few stories, a lot of stories where people have come together after a friendship. And also, in the past week, I have been doing I've been a real movie buff, I must say. I don't watch movies a lot. Simply, I don't have time. I love going to the cinemas, but, to um, get on Netflix or what we have here is Foxtel TV, paid TV. I'm not, that way inclined. But because, the last, I guess, 3 or 4 days here in Queensland have been quite wet and cold and a little miserable, I took advantage and watched the movie. So, of course, with my girlfriend, what did we watch? Hello, Zanetta. Welcome, welcome. What did we watch? We watched some chick flicks. Is that what they call them? Chick flicks, movies, romance, and of course, I'm all about love. I love watching these kind of movies. I like a bit of action as well, but yeah. So a couple of these movies that I watched, of course, were where you know friends then moved into being more than friends. And I thought, well, it does happen in Hollywood, it does happen in the movies, but it does actually happen in real life. Now, if you have experienced this and you want to share your story, please, I'd love to hear, I'd love to know. Or if you are in this situation where you like someone and you're friends with them, you've been hanging out for a while now, maybe even years. I don't know. You know, share with us. Let me know what you how you've tried to escalate things. But today, I really want to talk about that. You know, relationships are not always linear. Like they're not. They have to be a certain way to develop into a relationship because you know platonic friends at one stage can actually you know grow to have that attraction. Okay, we all change. We all change, and we want we want that change to happen, but sometimes it's in the timing. The timing is also a big factor because in this thing called time, you know that other person may also be in another relationship. That other person may be going through something particular in their lives, and you can't be available to be more than that, but you want to be. So yeah, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. So um, I thought I would just mention some points here. Um, when this can happen, it's really important to actually keep an open mind and not put limits on relationships because I was having this conversation actually with a friend, with a girlfriend of mine, and I don't know, maybe my mind's a little bit warped, but have you ever had a friend, particularly women, I guess. I don't know whether men have this kind of thought pattern where you have a friend and there's everything you like about this friend, but this friend happens to be the same sex, and you're not into the same sex. And I've actually had this conversation with a friend where I've besties, where you get along, you understand each other, um, and you think, "Oh my god, if only you were a man." If only you're a man, and if only there was chemistry, obviously, because chemistry is a really big part of it. But, um, yeah, my girlfriend said, "Yeah, well, that's how, same-sex relationships happen." I said, "Well, I guess so. I don't know because I'm not interested, that's not my thing, but I know that, we've gotta know what we want." That's the point I'm trying to yeah. Um, if only, um, Zanetta says, and she puts her big smiles. Yeah. So what do we do? What's the most important thing? Well, I thought I'd break it down and, keep an open mind and not put limits on relationships. Okay? Because when we put limits on relationships, we narrow things down and we, articulate, box them up, or do whatever we do in our minds, and we kind of say, well, what should they be? And you may realize, right, that someone you previously thought of only being a friend could be an ideal match for you. Okay. And sometimes that spark doesn't happen immediately, right? For some people, it's got to be chemistry at first sight, it's got to be that dynamic explosion. And for some, it doesn't happen that way. Like, I think love, when they say love is blind, I think sometimes that can be a little true, where, you don't see it coming. You think, "Oh my god, this person's been my friend for years, and now, we've gone into something deeper." It can be scary. It can be, I don't wanna spoil my relationship. I don't wanna spoil my friendship with you. And I think sometimes that can happen for both men and women. So keeping an open mind, okay? Um, of course, you can't change people, all right? Because I think sometimes too, what can happen, when you take it to from the friendship to the relationship, there can be cases where, you may want to change that someone because you've started dating, possibly. There's little things like, like little things like the way they dress might be changeable, but not the stark personality traits. So what's really important, okay, and I always say this, is, you know, understanding how do they handle situations when they're with you. Because they're at their, they're at that friendship, you're kind of more vulnerable, I think. Uh, how does that person treat other people? How does that person treat situations, whether they may be, situations that may not be so pleasant or pleasant situations? How do they handle the good times? How do they handle the bad times, basically? Yeah, I think that that's really important. Um, and what happens is, I think when you are a friend or you have a friend that you will might eventually turn into something, it has that time to develop. It has that, that space, that flexibility to develop into something more. So, definitely, understanding that, um, you know, knowing what you want, knowing how you want to feel with that person is so, so important. Okay. So, the things that you may want to consider, right, um, is particularly if you want to take things to the next level, right? So, we're talking about someone that you've known for a while and you like them and you want to, let them know that you possibly have feelings for them. Um, and you've only ever seen them as a friend, right? But then you've got this, you know, oh my God, something sparked, something's happened. Look at what it is that you actually want, okay? Because I think a lot of the times we can get infatuated into relationships and we overlook what it is that we want. And, for some of us, sometimes we do have lists, but then all of a sudden we can get uh, swayed by whatever reason uh, into another direction. Okay, so I think knowing what you want, what values, what do you really value in a relationship? What do you really value in a partner? How do you want to feel with that person? And, when you are with a friend, it's it's actually happening naturally if you allow it to, okay? Because sometimes what can happen is you can start off as friends and, one person more than the other may have that intention of taking it to the next level and may rush things, okay? Which can easily happen. And that can sometimes not work to your advantage. And I say this to men particularly because, men can have a tendency of escalating things way too fast. So for men, you see, what you got to understand, when women are friends, they're connecting. Okay, when they know you're a friend, there's definitely an emotional connection involved. And see, that's what women love, right? Now, obviously, when you're friends, you've got to have boundaries as well, okay? Because if you don't have these boundaries, a lot of the times, particularly women can take advantage of that, or it can happen the other way around as well. I shouldn't generalize. I shouldn't, be specific. But having boundaries is really important, like any friendship, like any relationship. And if you haven't got those boundaries, what can happen is, you know, you may fall prey to being taken advantage of. So, like a friendship, you have to set those boundaries. Who do we have here? We have Habaka. Hello, darling. How are you? Thanks for joining us. Thank you for joining us. And just to acknowledge my peeps, this is Mohammed. How are you, Mohammed? Now, where are you from, Mohammed? I know you've chimed in a few times. I know Habaka's from the US, Las Vegas. We have Zanetta from the US as well, Ohio. And yeah, so what was I saying? Friendships, okay? Making sure that you don't go into, make sure you don't go into the friend zone. And a good way of avoiding going into the friend zone is by setting boundaries. All right. So knowing what you want and really also sussing out how natural you feel with that person. Are you awkward with that person? What kind of feeling do you get? It's important to get a feel for what he or she is also looking for. Now, sometimes what can happen is we can get caught up in the dream of, wanting this person. But when I say it's important to feel for what he or she is looking for, it means having some conversations as friends, right? Asking, asking her or asking him, I guess, what are the non-negotiables? What are the must-haves in a relationship? And I think sometimes what happens, this is overlooked, and this falls into um, it falls into communication. Now, when we don't have communication or a real uh, flow of communication where you can feel comfortable asking that person questions that are important to you, you're going to have, unfortunately, some kind of breakdown. Because what happens is we fall into, the delete, distort, and generalization, thought patterns that we can have. Um, just acknowledging, Rebecca, I'm well. Nice to see you. Thank you, Han. Nice to see you too. And while I'm here, Mohammed says, I'm from Pakistan, over the moon. Thank you. Thank you very much. Um, so asking the question, I guess it's a bit like, having a little roadmap, right? If you don't know where you're going, you don't know where you're going to end up. So if you're talking to someone and you are interested in this person, right, and you're, quite your friends, there's nothing wrong with having those type of conversations, knowing, you know, what what the deal breakers are, knowing um, what the must-haves are, what are the deal breakers, because you don't want to be surprised. I was going to say, it's not going to be a pleasant surprise if you find out that, he or she may not want a monogamous, relationship, and you do, and they may want an open relationship. So things like that are really important. Things around also, I guess, um, you know, what do they like in relationships? They're spending time together, learning about past. Now, when you have a friend, okay, and obviously when you've had a friend for a while, they've probably seen you come in and out of relationships. And they've probably been the best shoulder to cry on, right? If they have, you know, been in your life long enough. And of course, when you have a friend and then that friendship starts to, become more into an attraction, and of course, as a friend, what do you want to do? You want to help that person. You don't want to see them in pain. You don't want to see them hurt by another woman. You don't want them, you know what they like. You know what makes them feel good. You have a really great communication flow between you. So, you can be at that stage where you're friends, but then you want to take it to the next relationship, right? So what do we do? So these steps of knowing first what you want, knowing first what that other person wants as well. And if you're talking, if they're talking about um, this is what they want in a relationship or this type of person, and you're not that type of person, or you're not willing to do things that they want to do, well, that's a clear indication that maybe that might be a challenge unless you're willing to compromise and change it up a little bit, to suit. But of course, always keeping your own identity, being who you are, because that ideally, that's why they're the friends in the first place, right? So, you know, understanding and asking questions, right? What have they learned from past relationships, right? That may even help them in the future. Because when you're a friend, sometimes, when you see your friend go through that pain ache, which I have. I've had male friends that are purely male friends, and I have been there for them during a period of heartache and pain. And you know, I mean, for me, there hasn't been anything more than that. But I can understand that we're trying to help them, learn from their past you know, or maybe, you know, pointing out what what was your biggest takeaway from that relationship, because obviously there's pain, there's hurt, there's anger, there's resentment, there's a whole lot of things going on when that's actually happening. All right, so questions like finding out what their non-negotiables are, what their must-haves are, asking them what they've learnt from their past relationships, and also, this is a really important question to really think about, is are they open to finding love, okay, in this season of this life? You know, seeing where they're at on the love scale is really important. Uh, yes, Habakkuk, what Habakkuk says, very interesting. I believe a lot of the times those topics you mentioned were not spoken to one another. Right. Absolutely. And I think we've all been there. I think we've all experienced, well, I really didn't know, or I thought he felt the same, or I thought she felt the same as I felt. Um, but we can't think, we can't presume, we can't distort or generalize something because it may mean something to us that means something different to someone else. All right, so that is really an important factor. Communication, finding out where they're at. Let me say, the art of speaking. Oh, well, thank you, Mohammed, for the compliment. Um, would like on your part to put the whole your shell at the end of your skin. Well, actually, it's not my American. I don't have an American accent, Mohammed. This is Australian. Yes, it's not American. Yeah, yes, yes. So, for those of you that don't know, I am from Australia, and I think my accent is more Australian than American. I believe it is. I mean, I've been actually told that it sounds a little South African. I'm not sure about that, but anyway. uh, Habakkuk, he's always found out late. Yes, referring to that exactly. And we don't want these surprises like that because sometimes they're not too pleasant, right? So I think, yeah, exploring, exploring their romantic terrain is important, okay? Knowing what they like, what they don't like, what, you know, I guess you may even go into what turns them on. You know, it may even escalate to talking after, being friends for a while. You may feel comfortable talking a bit about sexuality, the chemistry. I mean, the entertaining factors, the sexual activities. I mean, it depends on how open you are. Again, the communication is really important. For some people, that may be hard to like touch on, and of course, I guess you've got to really know that person. But if you don't ask, you don't know, right? If you don't go there, if you don't ask those questions, what's the worst thing that can happen? They shut you down because they don't want to talk about it, and this may happen, for men particularly, because men can be so visual and, you know, possibly more sexually stimulated than women are in the beginning, because women like that, emotional connection, whereas men are more into that, let's get it on, Marvin Gaye. um, so yeah, important, important, factors to really to take into consideration. And also, when you're actually in this flow of conversation or communicating these things or wanting to know more about your friend's romantic terrain, it's important to actually come across genuine. All right. And how do you come across genuine without being um, like sounding like you're Inspector Gadget, without sounding like you're interrogating, having that interrogating, nature about you? Act curious. Be childlike. I mean, childlike, not as in immature, but, just say, I'm curious. There's nothing wrong to saying that you're curious and you've been thinking uh, about this. And I've been wanting to ask you for a while, or, this has crossed my mind. So come across, very important, being curious instead of interrogating. You know, because we can come across, because it may be a sensitive topic, you don't know how to handle it. These questions can sometimes, you know, you might find yourself stuck. The secret is keep the questions open-ended, right? An open-ended conversation, or open-ended question, sorry, is when you are asking questions that they're not saying yes or no to. That is a closed-in conversation, a closed-in questioning. Because when you're asking questions that are closed ended, that other person will possibly just shut you down with a no or a yes. And then you've got to like ask another question to take it further. Whereas if you ask an open ended question, that's going to, I guess, give more leeway for that person to answer. And, again, reading body language. Do they get your question? Are they smiling? Is there an interaction? Is there, a flow of energy happening? Is there a surprise, but a pleasant surprise on their face? Okay, so asking open-ended questions is key. All right, gentlemen, is key for you gentlemen out there that want to like take it to the next level. Um, the next part is hard, right? Telling your friend how you feel and making a move. All right, so imagine how how will you come across telling her that you have feelings for her? And this requires honesty, it requires humility, and it requires getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you're going to feel uncomfortable, right? You'd already kind of like probably projected in your mind how uncomfortable and how awkward you're going to feel in telling her that, or telling the other person that, because You think it might spoil it, you think you might end the relationship, you think all sorts of things. Well, instead of thinking those sort of things, you may want to think about the possibilities, okay? So what you can do before you actually, go into that, taking it from the friendship to the relationship is imagine, okay? We have um, amazing minds. We have amazing imaginations. We're always imagining, we're always dreaming, we're always visualizing. So take the moment to imagine what it would be like with that person at the next level. Now, for men, I know they do a lot of that, like their visualizations, their imaginations, just like are way up here, okay? So, um, so taking it to that visualizing point of what would it feel like? What what would it feel like as I'm speaking to her? Imagining the scenario, playing it out in your own mind in a way that you want it to be. Don't play it out in your mind in a way that you don't want it to be. Don't, I mean, we're really good at playing out what we don't want, right? You have to be really um, intentional. So when you go into this imagination of yours, when you go into this visualization, I want you to, or I suggest to you that you go in with an intent. When you go in with an intent, that means you're already starting your roadmap as to where you want to end up. Okay? So starting off with intent that you want a positive outcome. Right. Okay. Oksana. Darling, the sound is breaking or fluctuates. Is it really? Oh, I wasn't sure of that. Is that anyone else out there having problems listening to me? Let me know, please. Thank you, Oksana. In today's world, learning how to communicate again. Yes, absolutely. We really need to do that. And I think with you know, the more technology is evolving, I think the less people are actually communicating. Um, are actually communicating with words. I know some of us like to communicate through writing. It uh, sound quality is flaky. Oh, it's flaky, is it? Okay. Let me see. I'm going to put my headphones on. I don't have my normal speaker here. I'm still in Queensland. For those of you, it's starting to break up a little. Oh, okay. I'm not sure why. Not sure if it's the internet. Let me see. Okay. Let me know. Does that sound better to you? Just let me know if that's better. So just give me a hoy and tell me if that is better. If you can hear my voice better and less flaky, and it's not breaking up. It'll probably take a few seconds for it. It's still choppy. Oh, okay. It may just be my internet. I'm not sure what's happening. Oh, okay. Sorry. I apologize for the sound getting better. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to continue with these. If it's worse, please let me know. Okay. So what was I saying? Um, taking it to the next, taking it to the next level, taking it to how are you going to break it out, break out to your best friend or your friend that you want to take it to the next level. Go into your imagination, go into your mind, visualize what it is that the outcome, setting an intention, and then as you set your intention, as you set your intention, go into your heart space. All right. Because when you go into your heart space and you go into heart coherence, it's a whole lot of, it's a whole, it's a whole another level as opposed to being in your mind. You see, that what we've learned is the, the heart over the years, the heart was to serve the mind. In actual fact, it's the mind that is to serve the heart. We have, slowly, as the years have gone on, being less in our heart and more in our minds. And of course, when we're in our minds and when we're in our critical mind, our conscious mind, we're more into the ego, as you've probably heard a lot of people speak about that. So, what I speak about is more going into the heart. So, getting into your heart, and when you do your meditation, a lot of the times we breathe and we're asked to breathe in through the nose and breathe out. Well, what I like to do is imagine that I'm breathing in through the heart. Okay. Imagine that when you're taking that breath in, your heart chakra, your heart, because it's a muscle, right? You want to expand it, you want to grow it, you want to make it stronger. Is breathe in through your heart. Yes, gentlemen, you can do this too. Okay. It's not only for ladies. You want more love in your life. You want to meet and attract the right woman in your life. You need to work that heart muscle. You need to work that heart chakra. Just like you work your biceps in the gym, you need to work that heart muscle. So opening it up, breathing in, imagining and watching your heart expand, and then exerting out, breathing out through your heart. So in your mind, you're opening up your heart, and then you're setting your intention, and then you're putting it in there and visualizing exactly what you want as an outcome. All right. So rather than being in your head, you're in your heart. Okay. So that's a little simple exercise that you can do. And I might sort of do something with you at a later date where I take you through a meditation like that, because that's what I really want to start doing, and helping people get into their hearts and out of their minds. All right. So that was a quick getting into your heart, setting the intention, imagining how you want to see it play out. Okay. And of course, the environment is going to be really important as to where you want to tell your friend that you have developed this, attraction for them. You feel more than just a friendship with them. Okay. I think environment is really important. And that may be, in a park, somewhere in nature, somewhere where you're not going to be interrupted. Uh, uh, plan a date in the sense of, something that you normally would do and hang out together, and you're not going to be interrupted. Okay, so that is something that you do, and of course, starting. How do you actually start this conversation? Again, being honest, being humble about it, and being really, really authentic and genuine is the key. All right, and of course, you've got to let them know that you value the friendship, right? So, and you don't want to make yourself uncomfortable. But how do you handle that situation? Again, when you go into your heart, you're going to actually be able to access that part of yourself where you're going to connect with your, your own, I guess some people call it higher self, your spirit. You're going to be connecting with that true, honest part of yourself. Okay. Now, sometimes what will happen, okay, I'm going to warn you. Sometimes what's going to happen is your critical mind might set in, and it's going to tell you all sorts of things. Oh no, you're going to look like an idiot. She's not going to like you. She doesn't have feelings for you. Um, you're just imagining things. You're just going to spoil everything. Don't tell her, and all sorts of things. That's your critical mind stepping in, all right? Again, take a breath and imagine you're going back into your heart, okay? Connecting with your heart. Because let's face it, what's the worst thing that honestly, they're going to say no? They're going to say, I don't feel the same. Or maybe she may feel the same. Maybe he may feel the same. You don't know. Okay? The saying goes, you never, never know until you give it a go, right? So allowing yourself to go there. Give yourself permission and tell yourself that you're not gonna die, you're not gonna die. If anything, you're allowing that other person to know exactly how you feel. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because if you're going to deliver it with love and you're going to deliver it, with vulnerability as well, because being vulnerable is not going to kill you as well. And being authentic about it, that person is going to see and feel your heart. If you're dealing with a woman, she is going to feel it. Okay? Now, I know men sometimes, have this thing like, I don't want to reveal my heart too much because it's been broken, it's been shattered, it's been ripped out of my chest, and I couldn't bear go through that again. Again, you don't know. Stop imagining all the worst case scenarios and step into your heart and imagine and go back to very simple, what's your intent, what it is, what's the outcome you want. All right? Uh, okay. Muhammad says, it's morning here, 6:07 a.m. in Pakistan. Okay, thank you. I've made your day. Hopefully, we'll sooner or later talk. Okay. Well, you have yourself a great day, Mohammed, and thanks for chiming in. So, if you have any questions on what I've just said, please let us know. Let me know. Let me know. Drop in a comment or so. So, remember, being honest, open communication is what is going to allow you to take it to the next level. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a friendship and taking it to the next level. As I said earlier, there's been many couples that I have come across, that I've encountered, that have told me stories where they were friends for a long time and then it just, you know, blossomed into something beautiful and they are still together. Now, what's really interesting, okay, and I really want to quickly go over this, is when you are friends for such a long time, when you are friends for such a long time, Habakkuk says, keywords, be honest, absolutely. You can't go wrong. When you're honest, you're speaking from your heart, and you can't cross over anything that you think is said and that you may want to say differently, whatever. So speaking honestly is important. But what I want to really quickly go over is the 8 reasons why it's really worth starting off a relationship with friends as well. Okay, so if you know that possibly or imagine that you would love to be with this one person. Excuse me, my throat's a bit water, and you want to take it to the next level. You want to see it escalate to something else. Um, what's really great about taking it from a friendship to a relationship is you can actually skip some of the early stages of when you meet someone. Let's face it, when we first meet someone, it can begin a little awkward, getting to know new stage in a relationship, particularly the first few months. A new couple learns a lot about each other, right? There's a lot of things we want to like speed up and know personality traits. We want to know the likes, dislikes, and it's like all this big, race to know, are we compatible? Um, Are we good as dating or whatever? Now, again, that might work. But what I'm saying, when you're had that friendship for such a long time or a period of time, and then you take it up to the next, you're missing out on all um, that velocity of the early stages of getting to know someone. Okay, and sometimes in that that honeymoon period, that that can happen, and we can overlook some of the things that we don't find out about that other person, right? So when you have been friends, you both have proven you're reliable, hopefully, okay? Because friends, what do friends do? We back each other up, right? We look for a friend would be honest with you. A friend would not be disloyal, right? People, we usually, I know I do. I surround myself with people that are like people that are respectful, people that are reliable, reliable individuals that are, um, that you have a connection with. So that there's a strong chance that your friend could turn into your lover, okay, when you have that friendship that's been going for a while. So, that you can rely on that person, all right? Um, what I mentioned earlier, you can learn a lot from past relationships. If you have been there for your friend, particularly during their heartbreaks and their breakups and their roller coaster relationships that they've been in and out of. Okay. I know it seems like a movie scene in some cases. Um, I know that it can be like a movie scene. Okay, Habakkuk, thanks for chiming in. Much love. Yes, Queen, to you too. Hugs. Um, you have been there for that person. And when you've been there for that person, I think that's that's going to give you a lot of you know um, that they know how you can fill in the gaps. As an outsider, and you're watching your friend go through these roller coaster rides and relationships, you're going to know what they need, what they want, what is true to their heart, and what's really going to make them feel loved, right? Because you're on the outside, so you understand what this what this woman really needs in her life, rather than dealing with all those, you know, um, chunky, narcissistic men out there who want to give her the love she deserves, right? So you can learn from past relationships that your friends actually been in and out of. Um, you know that you're comfortable together. That's just an obvious one. Your new boo has likely, seen you through good times and bad times. So you feel comfortable being your true self around this person. And I think that's really important because sometimes, as I said before, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable can sometimes put the brakes off, yeah, moving forward. I think also when you're friends, you appreciate each other's flaws. You've been around each other long enough and you realize, their mannerisms. You realize, what irritates them. You know the body language. You know the rolling of the eyes. And it's like it sometimes becomes this telepathic communication that you have with this friend, right? So I think that is also an advantage. Again, you can read between the lines a lot more than what you can when you've just met someone. Okay, and and sometimes in some cases you probably enjoy all this um, charming of imperfections. You may see them as quirky but attractive, and you have more understanding, more compassion. Now, when you're friends, you usually have fun together, right? So, what better way than having that friendship and hanging out with, knowing that you can enjoy each other's company. This translates into a fun-filled relationship, right? Whether you prefer spending late nights or early mornings or relaxing in your pajamas, you can you've already let it hang out, let your hair down in a way that they've seen your, you know, imperfections in a way. And when you're friends for such a long time, usually, not always, you've met each other's families, right? And that also can be something that, can take the edge off the overwhelm of meeting each other's families, for the first time. You don't feel like you have to impress them in any way. You don't feel like you have to dress up or act a certain way. I think these are really, really, you know, great things to see as when you are taking it to the next level, right? and and there's no need to sacrifice friendships, right? In the beginning stages of a relationship, you want to spend every spare moment with that person, right? With your new boo. You want to spend, all um, that time getting to know them. But with your new boo, much as the jargon of the best friend, you have allowed each other to have that space. And there's that respect. Your your girlfriend or your boyfriend is your bestie, right? They've got you. They have given you space all along. You know, that I believe is really important, particularly if you take it to the next, level of being into it, taking it from a friendship to a relationship. So there you have it, gentlemen and ladies that are listening. Taking your friendship to a relationship is possible. Okay? It is possible. It has happened for a lot of people. For some, it hasn't been as successful, and that's okay. Some will win, some will lose, but know that it is possible. And I think that's what I really want to portray, in this message today, that it is possible from taking it from a friendship to a relationship and not get caught up with the friend zone. Because I think, for some women, it depends again what women you're dealing with, or again, is the, the security, the emotional connection, the emotional intelligence that is flowing between you. And when you have that friendship, when it's coming from that space, it's definitely allowing a woman to feel that. It's definitely allowing a woman to feel that. And I think you've got a better chance as long as you, you know, flow from a place of love. And some of my guidelines may work. Some of them, may not be your your way of dealing with it, and that's okay. These are just guidelines to give you, um, I guess, a way of getting into your heart, connecting with that heart coherence, and overcoming the conscious mind, the critical mind. It can sometimes create distortions for us that, not allow us to get to our goals and dreams the way we want to. All right. So, gentlemen and ladies that are listening, that is it for today. I have thoroughly enjoyed sharing this with you. If you have any questions, if you have anything you want to share, any topics you want me to go over, or you want to join me in a conversation, please DM me, let me know, and I would love to have you as a guest. Um, yes, I will catch you definitely in my next video next week, and until then, I send you love, I send you passion. And of course, if you want more information, you can catch me on uh, the Gentleman Square, www.thegentleman Square. I'm also on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and also have my new book out, which I don't have a copy here at the moment, but you can grab my copy, my new book, Master the Language of Attraction. For men or ladies out there that want to buy a copy for your man, please do so. You can go to Amazon and grab yourself a copy there. And until then, gentlemen, thank you, Zanetta. So this is a great topic. Thank you. I will see you tomorrow, Zanetta. Until then, I send you all love and passion from my heart to your heart.